you had quite an adventure, I guess, last year with the kids and your daughter. That was, I mean, I have to say, I had kids. That is so scary. When she got sick, she had to go to the hospital. What was that, like a stomach bug she had, or?
Yeah. So she got, the poor thing, she got a stomach bug, and, you know, like any parent, she just was vomiting a lot. And so what I did is I just like tried to keep her hydrated as best I could. And I thought she was getting fluids, right? And this is actually really important for other parents to know, because I mean, my kids have had stomach bugs in the past, but apparently because she threw up for so long, it was like 16 hours straight. Like, it wasn't just a few hours. Even I thought, okay, she's thrown up a lot, but at least that, like, I kept giving her fluids, like electrolyte fluids, you know, Pedialyte, like before, after she was done. And I thought, okay, well, she's drinking it. Like, she wasn't drinking a ton, but she was drinking. I'm like, she's okay. But over the next 2 days, she just like was getting worse. It almost felt like. And so we took her into the doctor. At first they said, let's give it another day. Then when she went in and she kind of was like almost unresponsive a little bit, not completely unresponsive, but just not herself, they were like, you need to go right to the emergency room. So we took her right to the emergency room. And it turns out, which I didn't know, even if your child starts drinking after being dehydrated from the stomach bug, sometimes fluids, even electrolyte fluids, aren't enough. They have to get an IV. So just because your child starts drinking fluids and you think like, oh, well, they're drinking, this just must be a really bad bug and they're still fighting it. That might not be the case. Take them to the doctor, get them checked, because in many cases they need the IV in addition to the fluids, which is so scary.
It is, because like, okay, I remember we all had stomach bugs and the kids threw up. Did they give you like a time, like they'd thrown up for days and we're okay? Do you have any idea like when you have to be alarmed? Is it after a day maybe, or?
The doctor said, because we were in close contact with the doctor, like as soon as she gets sick, like I know I've dealt with a lot of stomach bugs, but I'll still call the doctor even when she like first starts getting sick, just because I want them to like know, like I don't know, I just always call the doctor first. But they were just saying, okay, you know, just keep giving her fluids, give her, like, we always fill like a little syringe with the electrolytes, you know, or water, because it's just easier for them to like take it, you know, the little medicine syringes. But they said once your child like stops responding, if they like aren't, like if you're like trying to talk to them and they're so asleep that they won't even respond. I mean, it seems obvious when they're non-responsive, but sometimes when your child's sick, they just want to sleep, right? So you're like, okay, let them sleep. But they were like, no, you need to like try to wake her up, make sure she can wake up, she's responding. And once she was just really hard to wake up, like she just wanted to keep sleeping, that was like the telltale sign, according to the doctor, like, nope, she needs something more.
Okay, that's scary. That is important to get out there, because we're back to school, we're back in the germ pool. It's gonna happen again. Did she remember much from it, or she like?
Yes,
she does.
She will talk about, like, she remembers a lot from it, and she like says like the stomach bug is the worst sickness you could ever get. Like, that's what she says. Like, you know, even with like all the other sicknesses we've been dealing with over the past few years, she says like, well, nothing's as bad as the stomach bug, right? Because that's the worst. Like, she knows it was so hard on her, poor thing. But I'm just happy she's healthy now. And now, you know, moving forward, I'd like to say I would do things differently, but we did everything we were supposed to. We talked to our doctor every day. We got her as much fluids as we can. But now at least I know, just because she's drinking fluids, she might need the IV anyway. So I think that's a good thing to know moving forward, and for other parents to know.
That really is. That really is, especially too when it's hot out. You know, you don't even realize, even if you're in the air conditioning, it's still hot. So that influences your fluid level.
For sure.
Oh,
for sure.
Gosh. Yeah, no, that's scary. So I'm glad that she's okay, and you have that knowledge now. So that's fantastic.
For sure. And I can spread the knowledge about it, you know, and help other parents. So
it's very important. Yeah. You know, and it is interesting, you know, seeing you with the kids and stuff, and then thinking you're that Bachelorette. Like, does that just seem like, what was that world I was in compared to where you are now?
Yes. I can't even watch it now. Honestly, like, I watched every season after I was the Bachelorette. Like, every season I was like, yes, so excited. I blogged about it. And it's a great show. I know that they're very good at what they do. It's a great show. But now that I'm older and I have 2 kids, especially now that I have a daughter, because I think like the women get a little harder on the show than the guys, even though both genders get a lot of scrutiny. Like, when I watch it, now that I'm older and more wise, in relationships, I feel like it's hard for me to like take it as seriously because they're younger relationships, you know?
Yeah.
But I also like, I see the scrutiny that these girls are under and the men, the contestants, and it just breaks my heart. So like I have a hard time watching it because I feel for them. Like it's like so much. Like I used to always say, like people would ask me, would you let your daughter be the Bachelorette? I was like, yes. Oh my gosh, it changed my life. Like of course I would. And now that I'm older, and especially now that social media has changed so much, now I say like, I would not. I mean, I obviously can't control her. She'd be an adult. She can make her own decision, but I wouldn't encourage it. I would talk to her about it and highly suggest not to, just because the social media scrutiny and the forums and all, it's so much worse now than when I was on it. So it is a different ball game now.
Oh, completely. Oh, and by the way, my kids are in their 20s and I tell them what they can and can't do. So don't worry. You can tell her do not go on The Bachelorette. But you know, that is interesting because do you think that social media now is sort of somewhat driving the narrative on a show that perhaps was recorded, you know, months and months ago and influencing where we're going with this medium, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, just social media has completely changed the show. It's changed the show from people now go on the show to be social media influencers, whereas when I was on the show, Instagram didn't even exist. Like my first post to Instagram was actually after the show, my very first one, and it was like testing this thing out. Like I thought that like the app was just for I thought it was for like putting sepia filters over photos. I thought it was just a photo editing app. But now things are so different, and not only do people go on the show, you know, for influencer status and you know Instagram fame, but now Instagram and social media dictate so much. Like if I was on the show now, I'd be constantly thinking what people are going to say about me on social media. Whereas when I did the show 12 years ago, I wasn't thinking that at all. I was just wanting to find love. I didn't even really think about the fact that cameras were there watching me, but people, they've got to think about that now. And poor Gabby and Rachel, the two current Bachelorettes, I feel so bad for them because like not only do you have the insecurity of like trying to find love on national TV with millions of people watching you and picking apart your every move, but now they're watching you juxtaposition of another woman and comparing you all season long. And I, as a viewer, because I just watched the last 2 episodes within the last couple of days. I actually hadn't been watching it. I was like, I'm going to catch up real quick. And I found myself comparing them. And like, I'm aware, you know what I mean? I consider myself a really good person who like doesn't judge people on TV because I know what it's like to be in their shoes and I'm empathetic. But even in that case, I was like, oh, I like watching this person's dates more than this person's dates. And I was like, that's so wrong. Like, and I feel like they have got to be dealing with so much. And I just hope they're okay. And I hope they have amazing friends and family and support systems around them because that's really tough.
Yeah. And, you know, that's interesting. You said you went on for love because that's when I started watching it, you know, because you'd be like the rose and it's romantic and all that. But
or a good time. I went on for a good time too. I just was like, this is going to be fun.
Right. Yeah. And fun. And fun, of course. But you know, it is interesting. Like for all the years the show's been on, do you think it is really possible to find your one true love in that short amount of time and have it actually work out?
I 100% do.
You do.
I mean, yeah, I always joke because I met my husband on a television show. So I always joke, like, of course you can find love on TV. I met my husband on a TV show. But I mean, I feel like once my husband and I started dating, I knew after our first date that I wanted to marry him. Like, I feel like when you meet the right person, you know.
Right.
So yes, I think it's possible 100%, but you've got the right person has to be there. Do you know what I mean? Like the right person's either there or they aren't there. So I always also say like, hey, if you had cast my husband on the show, I would have been a success story. You just should have had him on it. Why didn't you find him casting?
Right.
But I do think the show would be more successful if the lead had a say in the contestants. Like if like the Bachelorette got to help choose in the casting process and if like her best friends got to choose some for her, you know, like I think that'd be a kind of fun twist on the show, right? And I think the success rate would be better. But honestly, I think the success rate now is getting better, which is weird because you would think with the social media stuff and the Instagram fame and all that, the success rate would be worse. But it's actually, I think, better now than it was at the beginning. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and you're also in this incredible place and you go on these fabulous dates. Like it's not exactly realistic. So,
Right.
you think maybe if, you guys went, had different types of dates, more realistic, maybe it might be helpful because it's easy to get swept away.
For sure. I mean, I think honestly, the problem is the emphasis on having to get engaged at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that is where kind of it misses the mark. Because honestly, the extravagant dates were not the dates I enjoyed the most. I enjoyed the dates where they were simple, having a picnic, talking. Like, you're doing so much extravagant stuff and you're so exhausted that like the moments where I just got to sit and actually connect with someone like that, those are the moments I loved. Like, it wasn't even about the dates. I think it's just the pressure on the engagement. But at the end of the day, like, it truly doesn't matter. If the right person's there, the right person's there, you know? So it almost doesn't matter what the show does and doesn't do or encourages and doesn't encourage, because the right person just has to be there for it to work.
I think they need to bring you on as producer. Those were some great ideas of getting the women and their friends to kind of mix in the dates, because it would make a lot more sense,
Yeah.
But.
Well, people always joke actually too on the show that nobody ever eats. Like, their meals just sit there because they don't want to like be eating. I'm like, hey, I'll give you an old El Paso in your pocket. Then you can hold it easy on your dates.
Some product placement in the house,
Exactly. Just invite Chef Mama over. I'll make you some tortilla pockets.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I love that idea. Well, I'm going to go get some. I'm actually dropping my daughter off at college tomorrow. I'm going to have her go get some of those. No, it's okay.
They're amazing. Honestly, they're great for college too, actually. That's a really smart idea, because in college, like, kids need to like throw things in and then run off to their class and don't have time to eat. It's a really good on the go thing to add breakfast stuff into. She have as a microwave in her dorm room. She can microwave some eggs, throw them in the tortilla pocket with some cheese, and run off to class. Like, they're really, really great.
Oh yeah, no, we're getting them tomorrow. So thank you for this.
Amazing.
This is very helpful to me. But anyway, so great to get to talk to you, and I'm glad the kids are back to school. And yes, I definitely want to, punctuate, the stomach bug thing too, because I think that's really important, especially as the kids are back in school.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Gina. So lovely talking to you. Best of luck dropping your daughter off at college. It's so exciting.
Thank you. Last year too, so.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
We'll get there someday.